Bracket Week on CBS Sports HQ presented by Cool Sculpting. If you want to be different in your office pool, pick somebody other than Gonzaga. The Zags, the Vegas favorites to win it all. Sportsline has them winning over a third of the time in their simulations. No other team is even at the 10% threshold. And most of our experts are picking the Gonzaga Bulldogs in their brackets. Gary Parrish, Gonzaga. Matt Norlander, Gonzaga. Jerry Palm, Gonzaga. Dennis Dodd, Arizona. Sportsline, Gonzaga. So 4 out of 5 dentists recommend the Gonzaga Bulldogs to win the NCAA championship for the very first time. What does anti-dentite Chip Patterson have to say? We've got his bracket right here, ready to go through it. Chipper, you got a few more upsets than a lot of our other experts. Let's start in Gonzaga's region, the West. And Gonzaga is going to face Georgia State in that opening round in Portland tomorrow afternoon. Gonzaga advancing there. And you have Memphis over Boise State. These 8-9 games always tough.
Yeah, always difficult, and Boise State so good defensively. The Mountain West regular season conference champion, the Mountain West tournament champion. What a tough draw for Gonzaga, because you either get Boise State or you get Memphis, a team that over the last 14 games of the season, since Amani Bates stopped playing basketball and since they narrowed that rotation, allowing Jalen Duren and DeAndre Williams to be their best players, well, Memphis has been one of the better teams, really, in the entire country. And so I look at that game, and I think that that's a spot where Gonzaga could get tripped up right away. I mean, think about what the Jalen Duren against Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren, DeAndre Williams, the front court matchup would be absolutely phenomenal. I do have Gonzaga escaping Memphis, but I think that that is the beginning of what are several very difficult challenges for this team that, as you mentioned, is a very, very popular pick to win it all.
All right, let's move down to the 5-12 matchup, Connecticut, New Mexico State. That has been a sexy upset pick as well, but Connecticut is the team for Chip. Chip, I'm not sure that any matchup has been picked more as an upset than this next one, though, Vermont and Arkansas. Why do you and so many others like the Catamounts?
A lot of it has to do with their senior leadership. They're just so experienced. They take care of the ball. Their ball movement is great, and they're just a sweet shooting team. And when you think about the way that some of these mid-major upsets go, it often involves the team that has more talent, more athleticism, just shrugging their shoulders and feeling like you couldn't get a stop. And the way that Vermont has played on offense absolutely fits the bill. The other thing is that this wasn't a team that snuck its way through its conference or through its conference tournament. Vermont was absolutely blitzing everyone in the America East. They went through the conference tournament with blowout win after blowout win after blowout win. And I just think that John Becker's team is playing at a really high level. Arkansas is going to, try to create those turnovers with their defense, and they're facing a Vermont team that simply doesn't commit. And so I think that is why, again, you never feel great picking that upset, but here's the icing on the cake. Where is this game being played? Buffalo, New York. Vermont fans, Vermont students, that is a very manageable trip for them in a game where I think they as well are going to sense that there's the upset possibility. Much easier than it is for Arkansas. I wouldn't be surprised if, UConn, Vermont, big-time home court advantages for them in this Buffalo Pie.
All right, let's move down to Alabama facing the winner of tonight's first 4 game between Rutgers and Notre Dame. Alabama getting past the winner of that one in San Diego. Texas Tech beating Montana State. Down to the bottom of the West region of Chip Patterson's bracket. Michigan State past Davidson. Coach K and the Duke Blue Devils past Cal State Fullerton. To the second round we go. Gonzaga in Memphis. Chip said that Memphis has a chance here to pull the upset, but he is going with Gonzaga to advance. And Connecticut past Vermont and into the Sweet 16 as the 5 seed. Down to Alabama and Texas Tech. The Red Raiders advancing to San Francisco, and Coach K's Blue Devils past Tom Izzo's Spartans. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 5 seeds in the Sweet 16. Chip, this is the end of the road for the Zags?
Yeah, I'm going to call my shot here. I think that Dan Hurley's group has the high level, whether it's RJ Cole, Adama Sanogo. They don't have exactly what it takes in terms of a specific blueprint to beat Gonzaga, but I love the way that this team has played and the way that it's competed. Again, Sanogo gives us an opportunity to have the inside presence that you're going to need against Gonzaga. And this is just a bet on a resurgent Huskies team that has seemed to really show at its best a high level of play that can compete. Again, my Gonzaga play was to go a little bit against the popularity, but then also trying to realize that between Memphis, between UConn, between Texas Tech, between Duke, there are some real landmines for a Gonzaga team that, down the end of the stretch of the year, we saw them continuing to win. We saw them maybe not covering the spread by as much. Maybe things came a little bit more difficult. So you got to pick a couple of these upsets. I don't always like picking that 11 seed to make it all the way to the Final Four, a.k.a. VCU style, a.k.a. UCLA style. I'm really more looking at the established programs with the good coaching that maybe are seeded in that 4, 5, 6 line that are capable of knocking out the 1. I think UConn, it would require a fantastic UConn performance, but I think UConn's got that ceiling to be able to do it.
How about this? If the 1 seed overall, Gonzaga, goes out on the same day that Coach K goes out, Connecticut and Texas Tech for the right to go to the Final Four, Chip.
I see in Texas Tech a lot of the same frustrations that Duke had against Virginia Tech. Their experience, they play tremendous defense. I mean, Texas Tech rates as one of the best defenses in the entire country in terms of adjusted efficiency. And I actually think that between Kevin O'Banner, who of course we remember from Oral Roberts, Bryce Williams, I think that if you look at Adonis Arms, what he can do inside against Paulo Banchero and Mark Williams, I think that Texas Tech's offensive ceiling is even higher than Virginia Tech. And Mark Adams, taking over for Chris Beard and being able to lead the Red Raiders on a deep tournament run, just like Beard did, that would be a tremendous story. Again, this Duke team had trouble with a Virginia Tech team where it had a talent and size advantage. And I think the way that Virginia Tech defended as a unit and as a group gave the Blue Devils a lot of problems. I think Texas Tech does all those things as well. So with really a lot of notes from the ACC Conference Tournament Championship game, that's what informs my decision to take Texas Tech over Duke.
And Texas Tech over Connecticut as well to go to the Final Four. So that's the West region in Chip Patterson's bracket. Let's go down to the East region where the defending champion Baylor Bears are the 1 seed facing Norfolk State to start. Baylor beating Norfolk State in Fort Worth, home game for the Baylor Bears, or home state game anyway. North Carolina getting past Marquette. Down to St. Mary's, they know their opponent now after Indiana won last night against Wyoming. The Gales getting past the Hoosiers, and UCLA getting past Akron. Down to Texas and Virginia Tech, and the Hokies are the pick for Chip Patterson. Chip, a lot of experts and computer formulas love the Hokies. Why?
The computers have loved the Hokies all season. As they were falling short in close wins, whether it's KenPom, whether it's BPI, whether it's the net, they still maintained a high rating just because they're so good at shooting the 3, and they do have some strength defensively. But I will tell you that I just praised Virginia Tech for the way they beat Duke, but as strong for me is fading Texas. They've lost their last 3 games coming into the tournament. And while they were able to notch a couple of quality wins, I think the last 8-game sample size does not show a group that is ready to make a deep tournament run. When Texas Tech, under Chris Beard, made its Final Four and national title game run, they had won 9 of their last 10 games. That is not the case. I am fading Texas. I think Virginia Tech is better suited to be able to win a close, low-scoring game, which is exactly what I expect with these 2 styles.
And Purdue beating Yale. So it's Virginia Tech and Purdue in the second round. Let's continue to pick first-round games in Chip's East region. San Francisco over Murray State, and Coach Cal's Kentucky Wildcats past St. Peter's. I don't know that anybody's going to pick St. Peter's over Kentucky in the first round. Baylor and North Carolina, Chip. It's last year's champ against one of the all-time best. North Carolina pulling the upset?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about LJ Cryer not being in the lineup for Baylor, the team's leading scorer, but I think that this is where the loss of Jonathan Tchamwa Tchatchoua really comes up, because Chama Chachua is one of the team's best rebounders. He's one of the team's best interior defenders. And in North Carolina, you've got one of the best big men in the country, an underrated big man, in my opinion, in Armando Bacot. And I think that in the Big 12, while there are some very good centers, I just don't think that they had to face the same kind of slew that, for example, you saw in the Big 10, where you could fill out an All-American ballot at big man with multiple players from the conference. David McCormick at Kansas comes to mind, but I just think that Baylor was able to win games with its positionless basketball in a way that is not going to happen with Armando Bacot down low. I've been looking at a spot to take Baylor out, just like I was looking at a spot to take Gonzaga out, and North Carolina is just a bad matchup for the Bears.
Baylor losing in the second round. You had Gonzaga losing in the Sweet 16 to UConn. So North Carolina moving on to face fourth-seeded UCLA. So an 8 and a 4 in the Sweet 16 in Philadelphia. To the bottom of the East, Purdue past Virginia Tech, Kentucky by the Dons of San Francisco. To the Sweet 16 we go in Philly, East region. UCLA ending North Carolina's run, Kentucky getting by Purdue. Who wins between the Bruins and the Wildcats?
I've got Kentucky winning that one. And I mean, just what a terrific matchup there in terms of like our blue bloods, in terms of the fan bases that would make that trip to Philadelphia. But I've got Kentucky being able to take care of business. I just think that Kentucky is a team that, in losing Ty Washington and Xavier Wheeler for different points of time, they've had to come up with other answers. Sometimes it's been Keon Brooks, sometimes it's been Davion Mintz, sometimes it's been Kellen Grady. Heck, we've even seen Lil Jacob Toppin come in and be a difference maker for the Wildcats. And so I think that Kentucky is well suited to withstand the ups and downs because of their depth and versatility. I am bouncing North Carolina for that same reason, because the Iron Five, that starting lineup that played every minute of the second half against Duke, I think that they'll run out of steam once they get deeper into the tournament. And UCLA is a group I like. You know, they are seated at the 4 line. That is underseeded, in my opinion. They're up to number 7 in the country in adjusted efficiency margin, according to KenPom. I think that 4 is not representative of them being the 16th best team in the country. So I could see UCLA getting to the Elite 8, but falling short against Kentucky.
Okay, so it's Kentucky and Texas Tech so far in the Final Four in Chip's bracket. Let's go to the South. Arizona, the 1 seed, getting by the winner of tonight's game between Wright State and Bryant. TCU past Seton Hall. Houston and UAB, the Cougars past the Blazers. The Illinois Fighting Illini, a team that Matt Norlander has in the Final Four, beating Chattanooga. Down to Colorado State and Michigan. Keep your eye on the betting line there. Michigan may not have its full complement of players. Colorado State had been the underdog. Colorado State is the pick for Chip Patterson to take on Tennessee, advancing past Longwood. Loyola Chicago and Ohio State. The Ramblers winning another March Madness game to face Villanova in the second round in Pittsburgh. And to the second round we go. South Regional, Arizona and TCU in San Diego. Arizona winning there. Illinois getting past Houston. That Arizona-Illinois game would be a rematch of a game played earlier on this season, and of course about 20 years ago in the tournament. Such a great game. Dick Enberg was on the call for that great Illinois comeback. Colorado State, Tennessee. It's the Rams past the Vols in Chip's bracket, and Villanova past Loyola Chicago. So surprisingly, chalk so far.
A lot of chalk.
In Chip Patterson's South
I see
region.
a lot of chalk in this one. And you know what I find, Chris? There's a lot of spots where I'm going to take underdogs to cover the spread, but ultimately I think they win. That starts all the way back in that Houston UAB game, the Chattanooga Illinois game. A lot of underdogs that I like, but just not to be able to get the outright win.
Okay, so let's see if the chalk continues here. Illinois against Arizona, and you've got the Wildcats advancing past the Fighting Illini, and Tennessee. Finally, we have a lower seed winning a game. Who do you like between Arizona and Tennessee?
Love Arizona. It's one of the 3 teams that I have the most confidence in. Kentucky is one of them. Arizona is another, and we'll get to the third when we get to the next region. But the thing I like about Arizona is they've just got so much size. The tallest team in the tournament NBA talent in Ben Mathurin. And in the Pac-12 tournament, you get reminded that, oh yeah, Azuolas Tubelis was one of the best players for them last year. He's like a third or fourth option at this point. Tommy Lloyd's done a tremendous job with this group. I really am a big fan of where Arizona is at. I think they are actually under the radar for being a 1 seed and a 3-loss team. They are capable of winning a national championship, and I've got them coming out of the region.
And the first 1 seed into Chip's Final Four, joining 2nd-seeded Kentucky and 3rd-seeded Texas Tech. Midwest region, Kansas, the number 1 seed there, getting by Texas Southern on that Thursday late-night game in Fort Worth. San Diego State passed Creighton. Iowa in Richmond. Iowa has been a sexy pick to make a deep run in this tournament. They haven't made the Sweet 16 this millennium, but a lot picking them not just to do that, but to make the Final Four. Iowa getting past Richmond, and it's Providence past South Dakota State. And you like another Iowa team to advance as well. The Cyclones passed the Will Wadeless LSU Tigers.
Hemmed and hawed on this one, Chris Hassel. If you want to call me out by clipping my Eye on College Basketball podcast or another CBS Sports HQ hit, I understand. But this comes down to going to get a bucket. LSU is one of the best defensive teams in the country, but if they need a bucket, where are they going? Isaiah Brockington for Iowa State. If this game's going to be low scoring, and gracious, every Iowa State game sure seems to be low scoring. If it gets down to crunch time, Iowa State's got the better individual offensive player who can go and create. So that's why I'm going with the Cyclones here.
Yeah, they've been very sporadic, especially the second half of the season, but almost double-digit quad 1 wins this season. They've proven they can beat just about anybody. Moving on in Milwaukee, we've got the Badgers playing a home game basically and beating Colgate. 7-10 game, USC and Miami. This seems like a really tough one to pick, and you're going with Miami. Why?
Confidently. Real quick, Charlie Moore, Isaiah Wong, Cam McGusty. I would take all 3 of those if I needed to. Again, who's going to go get you a bucket theory? I would take all 3 of them before I would take Isaiah Mobley or anybody on USC. Andy Enfield's done a good job with this group in order to maintain the culture of playing great defense, using size and rebounding to be able to go out there and win ball games. But I really like Miami's ceiling. We saw it against Duke in the ACC semifinals. We've seen it in them beating Duke in Cameron Indoor Stadium and notching other significant wins. I just think the Hurricanes offensively are going to be able to score even against a high-quality defense like USC.
And in Greenville, they'll play the Auburn Tigers in Chip's bracket, the 2 seed. Let's pick the second round now in our final region, the Midwest. Kansas and San Diego State. It's the Jayhawks, the 1 seed, getting to the Sweet 16 in Chicago, and the Iowa Hawkeyes past the Providence Friars. Let's go down to Iowa State, Wisconsin. Home game for the Badgers. Badgers advancing. So is Auburn, as those teams go to Chicago, the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 5 seed. Kansas over Iowa. But Chip, you've got a bit of an upset here in Wisconsin beating Auburn.
Yeah, so let's go back to the go and get a bucket theory. Are you going to trust an Auburn team where sometimes it ends up that, KD Johnson or Wendell Green are just bouncing it, and we just see Jabari Smith over on the outside not getting it, even though he's a top 3 pick potentially in the NBA draft? Oh, yeah, and there's Johnny Davis there for Wisconsin. Now, Johnny Davis, some health issues, absolutely, but I expect that by the time we get to this point in the tournament, he will have had a chance for a full recovery. And if we want to talk about the home game potential in Milwaukee, I think you have an equal home advantage for Wisconsin in Chicago going up against Auburn. Total Big Ten country there in Chicago. And so I do see Wisconsin being able to get past Auburn. Again, what you have done in close games late, Wisconsin is so good in those close game scenarios. Auburn seems to be a little bit less so.
Right. Kansas advancing to the Final Four. That's 2 1 seeds, a 2, and a 3 in Chip Patterson's Final Four. So let's pick the national semifinals and champion. Take us through it, beginning with Texas Tech and Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky's the pick here. I mentioned 3 teams that I believe are really good national title picks. The Wildcats are one of them. And as they go up against that really tough Texas Tech defense, I can't believe I picked Kentucky all the way to the Final Four, and I haven't been able to say Oscar Tshiebwe, Oscar Tshiebwe, Oscar Tshiebwe, Oscar Tshiebwe, the National Player of the Year frontrunner, who may have a chance to match or break David Robinson's NCAA record for double-doubles in a season. I think that he ends up really being the factor, potential takeover moment against this Texas Tech team. So I like Kentucky to be able to get out of that side. And then I'll go ahead and take you to the other side, because That's one of the best potential matchups that I foresee in the entire NCAA tournament. And what it comes down to is the experience of Ochai Agbaji, the experience of David McCormick, the experience of Christian Brown. I mean, this Kansas team is not one of the most talented teams that Bill Self has had, but it certainly is a team that's playing with a lot of confidence right now. Remy Martin starts to get healthy here at the back end of the season. And then, oh, wow, Kentucky-Kansas is a ratings dream. Good for business, Chris. I'm excited about it, and I'll give Kansas and Bill Self the nod for being a national champion. It is just either one of those would end up being a worthy champion based on the way that they've played through this season. But I think that, again, with these great blue blood programs, it is not always the teams that have the #1 overall draft pick that end up winning the national title. Sometimes you need to have those program wins. And with all of the veteran leadership that this group has, you know, Remy Martin and Jalen Wilson as sort of the newer spice, Wilson as a sophomore, Remy as a transfer from Arizona State. It is just that good college basketball team that doesn't have the headlines of like your Zion, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish Duke team. It doesn't have the headlines of an Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid team, but it's got these players that understand what it takes to win at a high level. They've done it for years, and I think it powers the Jayhawks to a national title.
KU over UK in the championship game. Chip Patterson likes the Kansas Jayhawks. Rock chalk in his bracket, but very little chalk in his bracket. Chip, thank you so much here on CBS Sports HQ as we continue to go through our experts' full brackets. You can get in and create your own bracket, or 2 or 3 or 15 or 30. And you can also fill out a women's bracket as well. Do it on the CBS Sports app or at cbssports.com/bracket.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.